Note to self, don't chug your drink before doing a panel and then skanking.
I disagree.
So welcome to our panel. This is our second year at MAGFest. Who's been at our panel before?
Woo! Welcome back.
So
Welcome to the madness.
We try to keep it very open-ended. We'll introduce ourselves for those of you who are new to the panel, and then we'll have some warm-up questions. We have 1 or 2 fishbowl questions from the audience, and then if anybody has any questions, and then we'll kind of just dive in. We have some just pseudo-structured panel. Yeah. So for us, it's who are you and who's your favorite wrestler? I guess I'll go because I'm talking.
I was going to say, we ruined the alphabetical order the moment we sat down.
Yep.
Not one of us committed to the alphabet. And
I didn't realize we
that.
had to keep it that organized.
We're doing it live.
We're here already.
I set up here. Yeah. All right. My name is Kate Foray. I'm a graphic designer and a zinester. I have a zine called Girl Wrestling Fan, Will You Marry Me? It's about people in the wrestling fandom just sharing their stories. And it's typically, I try to give priority to people who aren't straight white men. So that's kind of the vibe that this panel's gonna hold. So if you're not down with that, you should just take a step out right now. But yeah, I've been a wrestling fan since I was 10 years old. I just turned 33 a couple days ago. And my favorite wrestler is the man Becky Lynch.
Which way are we going?
No. We can start over
this way?
here.
Yeah.
We're making our own order. It's fine. Again, we're doing it live.
Whenever you're ready.
Yeah. So I'm Jess. I work for the University of Maryland. That is also where I got my PhD in theater and performance studies, but specifically what I did for my dissertation was a study of female fans of professional wrestling, which was a pretty fun thing to do as a dissertation. It's pretty cool to write off tickets to wrestling shows as expenses for research. I like to write. I like to talk a lot about wrestling. I like to consume a lot of wrestling in any way I can. Live is my favorite. Big shout out, by the way, I don't know if anyone's here, but to Flying V. Woo, woo! I officially have a local. Flying V has established as of this past January a wrestling wing. It is incredible. I recommend everybody go see it. It is in a black box in Silver Spring, usually, though they did do a performance at the University of Maryland, which blew my mind. It's a lot of you Maryland grads. And my favorite wrestler right now, I do think lightning will strike me if I don't say Pac at least once. It's very important. I've said it every time if you've ever seen a panel I've been on, but I will say my other favorite right now is the ticking time bomb, Hiromu Takahashi. Welcome back. Tonight he's gonna get belts on back. It's gonna be beautiful. So that is one of my other favorites right now.
Oh, I guess it's my turn now. Hi, I'm Raven Smith. I'm the assistant manager for Phantom Comics in DC. I see some lovely Phantom faces out there. Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. As far as my favorite wrestler goes, that's kind of a loaded question for me, but I think my ride or die favorite has to be Sasha Banks.
Yes.
I'm very happy that she is back. I was real worried about her, and I'm constantly worried about her because she's real small. And sometimes I close my eyes and I see that botch spot when she didn't go through that table at Hell in a Cell, and just being like, no, you tiny, no. But as far as current favorites go, I mean, I really have been loving Kairi Sane and that good boy, Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
Freshly squeezed.
Freshly squeezed.
Hi, I'm Ella. I am an adult content creator and entertainment journalist. originally from Cleveland, but moved to Baltimore a little over a year ago. Thank you. And I have to say that for a long time now, I've had pretty much the same answer to this. My favorite wrestler is Kazuchika Okada, and while I will be very sad to see him lose at Wrestle Kingdom, it's gonna happen. It is. It's going to happen. I've been checking off my Holy Grail list of wrestlers I've met, and he's still on my list, and I plan to check him off this year. So.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maki. I am kind of like the e-girl version of Superman. By day, I am the administrative assistant at Third Eye Comics. By night, I kind of do everything. I am a content creator. I produce and perform in burlesque shows, other nerdy performance art shows. I host a lot of things. I talk about a lot of things. I get tied up a lot. That's a thing that I'm into. So I'm kind of like a mixed bag of a person. I've been into wrestling for a very long time. I've fallen in and out of love with wrestling a lot, including this year, for sure. My favorite wrestler was Chris Jericho until he did something pretty heinous, in my opinion. So as much as I love Chris Jericho, I've learned to let him go as that number one in my heart. I'm really into Naito, as you can see. I've been loving Darby Allin a lot. I've really been into Rhea Ripley, although Shayna Baszler's my girl.
Yes.
And yeah, that's me. I'm just really happy to be here again.
So I don't see any here, but we did have one from our virtual fishbowl, just as a starting off point. And we kind of talked about it before we started the panel, because we all sat together and got a drink. So it was kind of like this discussion of the thin line between playing a character and real life drama and social media, and I guess in regards to wrestlers. I'm assuming that was what I literally copied and pasted it.
It'd be weird if that wasn't what they meant.
Yeah, I'm assuming. I mean,
Fundamentally
it could mean like those
misunderstood.
podcast guys who are heels on the internet,
Yeah.
but
I can start and anyone can jump in. So I think that it's definitely gotten more and more complicated because there are wrestlers who use social media very much like kayfabe in character. Then there are other wrestlers who are like, I'm just gonna be John Cena and post inspirational quotes, which I guess might also be in character, to be fair. I'm glad.
So stressful though.
I'm sorry.
I don't
I'm sorry John Cena followed you on Twitter. That's rough. But I think one of the things that like immediately for us came up is when that line comes and people, whether it's promoters or whether it's the wrestlers themselves, start incorporating it into real life storylines or into on TV storylines. And I think we all jumped to AEW with Joey Janela, Penelope Ford, and Kip Sabian. Which, if you have seen Penelope Ford's Twitter, my goodness, I have learned so much about Kip Sabian's gifts and about Joey Janela's lack thereof, as per Penelope. And so it does get really complicated because it's, okay, well, we know that they were, Joey and Penelope would also wrestle together, but there was also a real life relationship, and now one of the big questions that I think came up for us and that I've seen come up for a lot of people is they're like, how much input do the wrestlers have into it? Is this them choosing to be like, yeah, we will totally air this out, this is fun? Or is it them being like, wow, this is super uncomfortable and we are being told that we have to do this as a storyline? Looking at you, wedding on Monday Night Raw.
That was beautiful.
I know. We
I
can
feel
talk
like-
about that too.
I feel like another example, like a very perfect example of this that kind of didn't go the way everybody, or well, we all knew it would be crap, but Vince apparently thought it was amazing to bring Seth and Becky's relationship into the forefront. And because of that, we got crappy the man's man shirts. It didn't, I think it didn't really help either one of them in their kayfabe storylines, and I can't imagine for their personal lives. I mean, we don't know them obviously, but I can't imagine, you know, them kind of thinking this is a great idea. Also, after the fact that Seth was kind of wilding on the internet for quite some time. So it was all just a lot. Even with Seth fighting or like having this beef with Will Ospreay, it was just like, what is happening right now? Like, you don't look good, and it's bleeding into your kind of kayfabe persona because you're getting booed based off of the shit that's happening on Twitter. So yeah, it's very interesting. I don't know if I like it.
I think we live in this strange time where we've had to accept that to some extent kayfabe is actively dying, and there needs to be, we've created a need as a fandom for somebody to step in and manage the social media for these wrestlers so that they can have some semblance of a personal life while also building storylines and maintaining that presence and interaction with fans without causing that kind of discomfort to themselves. Because as Maki said, it definitely has an impact on their performance when there are those blurred lines, not always in a positive way.
Okay.
And you also have.
Can't hear you.
Sorry. You also have the added problem of what happens when your persona does something that might alienate some specific fans. Like there was a tweet that the MJF put out a while. Like MJF shits on everyone. That's just a given. But there was a tweet that he had a while back that specifically was just like, fat people are terrible, they're the worst, gross. And it's like, man, you're really, really talented and you're really clever and you come up with these great zingers all the time. But this was the lowest of low-hanging fruit, and people were kind of in his mentions like, well, some of them at least were like, really, man, really, like.
And especially because it's like, it's not like you're feuding with someone where you're like, oh, this makes sense. It's like, oh, wow, no, you just decided this was a thing you had to share.
Yeah.
I genuinely appreciate there are a number of wrestlers who have publicly, like in interviews and on commentary, been like, oh, I don't have social media, I'm too dumb. And I'm like, no, actually, that's the smartest decision you've ever made. Yep. Because yes, I agree that like it can be really useful for that fan engagement, but some of them I'm like, someone change your password and don't give it back. Yeah. Because you just keep digging yourself deeper. Because there are a lot of wrestlers who I think one of the problems is, I'm like, you're super reactive. Like you want to engage with everyone who asks you, and I'm like, oh, you're still going. No. You're still talking. It'd be better if you didn't. And it can make it complicated because I think, and it gets back to what Maki was saying, I'm like, well, now this real life, like these thoughts and feelings and opinions that you have or that you're willing to share on social media, I'm like, oh, I can't watch you wrestle the same way now that you have been like, I'm comfortable liking this really gross tweet. Or
looking at you, Randy Orton. Although he's been trash for a while.
Oh, yeah, it's not new.
To be fair, they are getting better about recognizing when we've started as fans to turn on somebody, and they're becoming more more proactive about turning them heel and things like that sort of play off of that, like, and not forcing us to continue awkwardly cheering for somebody just because they're billed as a face when they're a shitlord in real life.
I think Cody was one of the first people who actually got it and made himself 2 separate Twitter profiles. He had his like Cody Twitter, and then he had his own personal Twitter. And I feel like it was really understood that whatever he tweeted on his Cody profile, like that was within the storyline. These were the things that, you know, Cody the wrestler was thinking. Whereas if you followed, I don't know, it was his gamer profile name. If you followed that, like that was him. And I think that more wrestlers should look into that and then look into maybe privatizing, you know, their personal profile, just because I've always thought wrestlers should have social media, but I think there's an accessibility issue in terms of when you friend a wrestler and you see them on social media 24/7, essentially outside of TV, you start to think like they're one of your friends, they're one of your mutuals, they're somebody like us, and it's not necessarily the case. So when they tweet something from like their actual selves, it is a little devastating depending on what it is, but also like they're human just like everyone else. Not necessarily excusing the shit that they do, but maybe that should be reserved for their own personal social media.
And it's interesting because you constantly get that question of, oh, well, what do you think it would be like if wrestlers back in the 80s and the Attitude Era and everything, like if they had access to Twitter?
It would be terrible.
Nobody needs
Twitter would
Shawn
have banned
Michaels
anyone
to
with a
have a
WWF
Twitter.
account.
Scott
Like-
Steiner on Twitter.
Like Val Venus. Nobody needs
I
that.
would like Val Venus on Twitter.
Okay, but like.
Look, Vader having Twitter turned out to be a terrible idea.
Really liked Val Venus.
The man didn't understand how reflections and pictures worked. It was a bad idea. We don't need it.
But yeah, and I
We don't
think,
need to know.
and I think it obviously is a situation. It's a product of the times. You have back in the day, they would have to just cut their promo and that was it. You'd see them wrestle, and then they go on the road. But now it's almost like a 24/7 thing with them being on Twitter. Like, take Becky Lynch. Like, she blew up within the past like year and a half, but a lot of that had to do with how good she is with her Twitter and how good she's gotten with her promos and everything like that. And it's like you were saying, hey, it was just, they don't really get a day off. It's like when you're on, you're on. Otherwise, you just have to not be online, which kind of, it sucks when you think about it because they are just regular people, but also they have to put forth this thing like, I gotta keep pushing my brand. I gotta hustle every single hour on the hour to put that content out. And if you're somebody that makes content for a living, you understand how stressful that can be. Because it's like sometimes sometimes you just want to chill out and like watch season 3 of Ms. Maisel or something. So
Anything.
it's just it's a thing. Let wrestlers take a break.
Yep.
That's the message for 2020. Let people take a break when they're not injured.
So they don't get hurt.
yeah.
Tell some wrestlers to take a break. Don't let them tell them.
We should probably, I know we have a few other.
We do.
Yeah.
Also, if anyone has a question they want to, like, you don't want to write it and you just want to raise your hand,
Yeah.
you can do that too. We will
Yeah.
listen. We're here.
We're all friends here until you turn on us.
Yeah.
Los.
Oh.
Oh.
I feel like you could also flip that too, because like I immediately think of Sami Zayn and like Sammy Casaria.
Yeah.
Because like we all know who the McMahons are. Like Linda was
Yep.
like in Trump's cabinet. So like, do you ever think it's stuff like that that like, and I'm not saying like who's right or who's wrong, but like, do you ever think like disagreements with even like WWE and wrestlers like drastically affects like their turnout? Because like the last time Sammy won champion was like NXT, right? Yeah.
No, that's a really good point. So if anyone couldn't hear it, was when you think about like people who use wrestlers who use social media for positive messages, but that are definitely in contradiction with the political or business views of the company. I even think of Batista. When like Batista came back, I was like, what is this? I don't like it.
But he also was like, I too do not like this.
Yeah, and he like very quickly was like, nope, this isn't what I wanted to do. And now his social media is all like, here's these pit bulls I rescued. Here are my progressive opinions. Here are all of these things. And I think there are wrestlers who, I think once you can't ignore the fact that there are some wrestlers who I'm like, you pretty publicly have some terrible opinions and you keep succeeding. Randy Orton. Versus, oh wow, you have like thoughtful, different opinions and we're gonna make you a joke over and over. And so I do think that there are probably some wrestlers who are like, I'm gonna lay low. I'm not gonna engage with what I really think because I want to have success, and I can't fault them for that. I'm like, this is a business. You're trying to make money. But it does make me respect all the more the wrestlers who were like, nope, Sammy for Syria.
Like
leave me alone.
Ali's another really, Mustafa Ali is a good example of someone who is constantly speaking up on really important issues. But he just really had a really terrible 2019. And I feel like that kind of like missing that lightning in the bottle, on top of like his opinions, the fact that he is a brown person, all of that combined kind of like gives him this kind of like crap end of the stick. And I think TJ Perkins posted something, I don't know who he was responding to, but he posted something recently where he was basically like, you know, it's like with anything, there's like the top people and these are the people that are going to be the stars, and like they're always going to be the stars. They're always going to be what they use to market, to sell to the big business, and then they're going to be the supporting characters. And some of these supporting characters may have like bouts where they do something interesting, but then they go back to being supporting characters. And how you play that, sometimes like you don't get a choice. Sometimes you're just stuck in that supporting character role. But I feel like definitely once you let it be known that you are going against the company, even if you're not trying to go against, you know, the big company, then you're going to be forever in that role. And it's unfortunate that it does happen to a lot of brown people, a lot of people who I would consider advocates for greater causes. It is unfortunate.
I'm constantly surprised that Ali gets to keep being a face.
Yeah.
I honestly am.
Yeah.
Like I'm waiting for the moment.
And he got his name back.
He did. He got his full name back. He's not just Ali anymore.
And he's just recently, a couple weeks ago, spoke very openly about his difficult 2019 and how he felt like he had lost the one opportunity, the one shot that he was actually going to get in his career. And I think it makes it all the more important for us to speak out and really show our support, not just with our voices online, but with our wallets as well, to support people like Ali, brown people, marginalized groups who really need that shot, who are constantly getting shit on or forced onto the mid-card or not being given a chance when they are so incredibly talented and deserving and better than some of these lazy jerks who have awful opinions who will just parrot whatever Vince McMahon wants them to parrot.
Randall Orton.
Randall Keith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing a lot of people sort of is that it's at the end of the day it's Vince McMahon running the stuff, and even though he's busy with the XFL, which
I hope he stays busy.
Yikes
like,
on
to the
bikes.
Point where he just gingerly hands it over.
Yikes, hard lemonade.
it's just going to, you know, I think that at the end of the day it has to be these new faces, because right now one of the main main stars here. One of the biggest stars is your Brock Lesnar, who's not even there. He's not even there.
No.
And people are saying, oh, did you do this? I'm like, at the end of the day, you should be making your stars, the stars that are in, who's on your roster, actually important. And it's sad that it's like you have to bring someone else back from like previous generations and such. It's funny how WWE mocked WCW bringing in old stars. They brought in all the old stars. They didn't make the new stars. I'm like, they're doing the same daggone thing over and over again. It's like they don't learn anything. It's just like, I honestly think if Hogan and all the guys didn't go to WCW, that actually ever would not happen. They would have been calling them up and putting them in the same positions what they're doing right now. That's what I truly believe. It's just that, again, until WWE starts realizing that, hey, we got some really good talented people in NXT and in the main roster. They're not, don't be surprised, like, someone can be like, they might pull a John Moxley, then just be free, and then just go completely to a share of the Indies, New Japan, and then AEW.
Yeah, they seem happy. They seem so happy. And so if anyone didn't hear, so it was just about, one, the fact that the challenge is that ultimately this is being scripted out of their control, but the two, that WWE seems in a lot of ways really, really reluctant to take chances, to build new stars. And I think it's really telling that there are people who choose to go back to NXT, who are like, oh no, I'm Finn Balor, who's like, no, I'm not going in. Yep.
Shout out to Anti-Venom, Finn back there. I see you. You look amazing. Shout out to you.
But yeah, that there are people who were like, you know what? Where there's actual relatively, and again, I'm speaking specifically about in WWE, it's like where people seem to have relatively like creative satisfaction, or at least feel like maybe they're contributing, seems to be in NXT. Which reportedly, and again, how true is any of this, Vince McMahon has very little to do with. It's mostly Triple H. And so there are a lot of wrestlers who were like, no, this is the, I think it's really telling that, like, I think it's Ciampa, who's been like, this is the main roster. Like, this is where you actually want to be, because you can do something meaningful and do long-term storytelling, which the main roster seems to be like, that happened a month ago. We've forgotten.
Yeah. Right. They don't know what long-form storytelling is in creative on the main roster.
NXT supposed to be a developmental brand?
It was, yeah, initially.
Yes. But you notice we have not had the number of call-ups has drastically dropped, because people are starting to finally catch on to the fact that if they get called up, they're going to get lost in the shuffle. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And I think what Mox did was absolutely amazing in leaving and in being honest about why he left. But I think it's also important to, as incredibly talented as he is, I think it's also important to remember every moment that there's a reason he had the ability to do that, being a straight white man.
yes.
Yeah.
So that, I was going to say, I've been listening to New Day's podcast, and they've been talking a lot about kind of like the backstory of New Day and how they came to be and their struggles and when they first came out and nobody liked them. But they raised some really interesting points that creative doesn't have. There's very few people who look like them in creative and in developmental and in assisting with creating these characters. And I think a big issue, especially in WWE, I mean, I would say AEW as well, is that they aren't hiring people that look like the people that we want to see. Like, they're not hiring black and brown people backstage. How do you write for somebody when you don't know their story and you don't know?
They're also not hiring queer people because
They're not.
Monday, am I right?
Oh, God.
And they're not hiring women.
Yeah.
Because when you, I think WWE at least has been pretty open about the fact that, like, it's men writing the women's division. Shout out to you, Kevin Dunn. Not anymore.
We're so shocked.
Yeah.
Like, we couldn't tell.
No, but even to the point where for a while, WWE had a dedicated writer for the women's division.
There's one right now
Yep.
who's a woman. She's been there forever. And then we knew one who was there very briefly. There's a lot of women who are there very briefly. And I've talked to some writers with WB, and their argument is always, it's a very hard schedule. And, if you want to apply and da-da-da. And I think that's bullshit. I think that's bullshit in any job. Like, don't tell me that, you're not hiring women because no one's applying.
Yeah. And I was going to say, it's a very hard schedule. Like, do you mean that I have to be home with my babies? Like, what did that
Is
say?
that, like, why
That's
is
hard
it-
to
yeah.
for anybody.
Yeah.
I do also, real quick, I do see you.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I feel like we kind of tend to default to blaming certain names, partially rightfully, the McMahons, especially done to an extent Triple H, but like with all three of them were not at this last Monday's Raw.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point.
Also has its
Oh,
problem.
we could tell.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like it's kind of just a systematic thing in the entire organization.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
My favorite thing was going on Twitter while that was happening and seeing all the responses of people saying, "There's no way Heyman wrote this. Are you kidding me?"
What?
Did you watch ECW?
What are you, new?
100%.
Wow.
Have you seen Paul Heyman's Twitter feed? Yes, he did.
I do have to agree with you that a lot of people are like, it's always Vince's fault. And yes, he owns the company. He is the face of the company. He carries the weight. But like you said, he's not always there. It's not just him. There are plenty of, it's a multi-billion-dollar company. There's plenty of people working there, and they just are hiring the same people that sound like him.
Yeah.
So they just, again, goes back to
Yeah.
diversifying your hiring process.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are like, when X changes, it'll all be okay. And I'm like, that is very inaccurate.
No, it's a
That
whole
is-
pervasive
yeah,
culture
it is a
that
whole-
you
yeah.
have to overcome and take active steps to change.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not just WWE. It's
Wrestling.
like
It's
the
wrestling.
wrestling culture.
Like, let's look
Yeah.
at how the situation with Cornette and NWA Power.
NWA,
and that,
yeah.
and that left. But at the same time, it's like, did a whole lot change?
No.
No.
because it's
They hired Wade Barrett, though.
yeah.
I'm happy.
and
Just me.
And I think the thing that wrestling fans, regardless of how long you have been a fan of this, is this is carny shit. Like from top to bottom, from the very beginning, it's people cobbling together a form of entertainment. It's literally it's the strongman aspect of just like, oh, well, what can you do? Well, I can lift heavy things and I can put them back down. I can lift two people at the same time. Cool, get your ass in here. But as things have progressed and as times have changed, the audience as a whole has also wanted the business to progress with it, and they are so reluctant to do so, which is why, I mean, if you are from the area, please, please, please go out and support Primetime Pro Wrestling.
Yes. Primetime Pro.
Support Flying V.
Yes.
Because they are doing fantastic things. I haven't had the chance to go to a show, but like Crab Wrestling, they're really great. It's just, yes, support it. Nice.
Yeah.
Like support your local promotions, but specifically be critical of your local promotions.
Yes.
Because it only takes a few people to be silent about like, oh, well, we can go ahead and hire that guy. He's totally fine. Oh, well, he did
Fucking
some gross
James
stuff to me. He did some gross
Yeah.
stuff over here. Like, nah, it's fine. He'll put butts in seats. It's all right.
No.
Don't look
Don't
at
do
behind the
it.
curtain. Like,
Can I tell y'all about the time that I did a thing and James Ellsworth was right in my face, that fucking chinless bastard?
no.
I'm sorry, this might have been PG-13, but now it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I had to wrestle him last week.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, God, I'm so sorry.
Oh, baby.
I was gonna say, you're a good person. I'm sorry.
Not started.
He's exactly an asshole.
Oh yeah, yeah. The
Yeah.
entire
Wow.
time,
Shocking.
he was literally just talking shit about every wrestler.
That's what he does.
It was awful.
Gross.
For 6 years.
But that's the thing though. These people keep getting booked, and he's like
Yeah.
small business, like, but he's somehow just working his way around like the DMV. And why is this happening? Because he has a little bit of notoriety and fame that people just clamor to, that people want to put on their posters, that there's this person who has this little bit of notoriety. He was in WWE, but they don't see the fact, like all of these allegations, like the fact that this guy's literally just a nightmare to be around. Yeah. But if there are smaller promotions that are feeling this pressure, that are still doing this kind of stuff, then the bigger promotions are obviously gonna just overlook people who are just egregiously like habitual line steppers.
Yeah.
Which brings us.
And sorry, and go ahead, and then over here.
Okay. Which brings us back to the fact that if lack of representation and constantly rewarding poor choices and awful opinions were just a WWE problem, there would be no reason for this panel.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Wrestling purity culture is foolish.
Yeah.
Like anyone who's like, my promotion would never do that. I'm like, yeah, they
What
would.
the?
Okay. But yeah, so
Yeah, I just want, I can stand myself, just
Yeah.
project myself.
yeah.
I just want to just give you my, just a quick, simple question for the ladies. What do y'all think about intergender wrestling?
Sure. So if anybody did not hear, the question was, what do we think about intergender wrestling? I think all of us can definitely weigh in.
Put Tessa
it?
Blanchard in
Yeah.
everything, have her beat everyone's ass.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, to throw them out there again, Primetime, when they had one of their most recent shows, they actually had an article written about them for the Washington Post, and they talked about it. And honestly, I believe that intergender wrestling has a place in wrestling because you're still telling a story. You've got the strongest people, regardless of gender, in the room, in the ring, showing you what they can do. Like one of my favorites, Solo Darling. She's a
Yes.
she gets into the ring and she's a tiny person and she
Get
has
them
the
legs.
yes.
Get them legs.
Mighty like tree trunks.
He is.
But like she gets into the ring and she commands it every single time. She can be wrestling folks that are like 6 feet tall, 300 pounds, it doesn't matter. And she still gives them the run for their money. It's like, it's not about, oh, well, you can't compete because you're a lady. It's like, I made you tap. So
And I think for me it's a two-part thing. So one, people who are like, it's unrealistic. I'm like, Big Show wrestled Rey Mysterio, and you didn't have a problem with it.
Big Show also gave birth to a hand.
Yeah. So if we're
Or
going for realism,
Mae Young
you're in the
did,
wrong
but
sport.
it was Big Show's.
And then the other.
Or, oh shit, Mark Henry, you're
I love
right.
you, Mark Henry.
Oh, they're both
And then the
really
other thing that I think for me is really, really bothersome, and it's not to diminish anyone's personal experiences, but when people kind of have that knee-jerk, well, it's reminiscent of domestic violence, I'm like, okay, you're implying that there is no such thing as male-male domestic violence, that female-female domestic violence doesn't exist, that it is only when a man wrestles a woman that comes into play. And I think that is an incredible amount of erasure of very real issues, so that if it is for someone maybe personally triggering, or that they personally choose not to either engage in the matches or watch it, I can respect that. But to default to intergender wrestling is domestic violence, I'm like, you are erasing a lot of things and ignoring a lot of experiences to tell a particular narrative.
I think also when you start to get into these arguments of intergender wrestling and men versus women, you're completely ignoring a whole subset of non-binary wrestlers who what does that mean for them? Like there's not that many that I am aware of, but I've seen
Still
a couple.
Life.
Yeah,
I love you, Still Life.
Sophie. Oh.
Sophie King.
Yeah, Sophie King. Yeah.
Sophie is one of the loveliest people I've ever met in my life.
So I think that's the whole thing of like when you start to talk about, a man can't wrestle a woman, it's like, well, okay, sure, but there's this whole other argument. You're starting to ignore all these other wrestlers who the argument doesn't apply. It's like the argument doesn't apply to them, but also like you're ignoring them completely, and then you're kind of ignoring all of their talents and the things that they're doing in the community.
You're also ignoring when you make that argument, the domestic violence argument, to piggyback off of what Jess was saying, you're ignoring the fact that these two people have consented to go through this match and are performing and creating entertainment together. And I think to compare that in any way to the lived experiences of victims of abuse and domestic violence is just absolutely unforgivable.
Yeah. It's also a situation where you have wrestlers take Mia Yim, who is very vocal about the fact that she has dealt with domestic violence, and she still wrestles. She has wrestled, done intergender matches and things like that. So what are you saying about her? It's like Ella said, you're erasing so many different levels of consent. Every single wrestling match has to have consent in order for it to work, in order for it to tell a story. Without that, it's literally just people kicking each other's asses, which, I mean, okay, but also, no. And why?
Also, Candice LeRae could wreck anybody.
Yes.
And so could Asuka. If you have not seen Asuka wrestle Minoru Suzuki, boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
She booked it, by the way. Like, to be clear, if you watch it, you're like, oh God, she's alive.
She asked for that.
Yeah, she asked for that. But like, there are these wrestlers choose, as Raven is saying, to engage in this and to decide that they're going to tell a story. And it's incredibly powerful. And again, there are plenty of male wrestlers out there that if you pitted them against a number of the female wrestlers, I'm like, you don't have a chance. She's gonna tap you out. And it's gonna be amazing, and it's gonna be really satisfying. So I think, a very pro-intergender panel up here.
Yes, and if you can believe Andre the Giant against literally anybody, then that argument of believability completely goes out the door.
Yeah.
Purple Macho Man shirt.
Oh yeah.
I'd just like to get your opinions on the contract with Saudi Arabia and WWE.
All right.
Blood
We
money.
all went on a face
We've been on
journey.
here long enough.
I say connected, follow up, or
Yeah, actually, and specifically because I feel like every time it comes up, this most recent event gets a bit underrated. Does the Natalia Lacey Evans match?
No.
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 I already know what you're gonna ask now.
I mean,
didn't watch
will. I will be very honest. WWE doing the events in Saudi Arabia was what made me cancel the network for me. I watched Evolution when it aired because I wanted to watch a women's pay-per-view, and then and it is a struggle for me because there are a lot of wrestlers in WWE that individually I support and I don't begrudge their decisions. But I personally can no longer give them my money. I know my $9.99 a month is not even a drop in the bucket. It's like a billionth of a drop. But for me, I think it relates, we have a question at some point up here about like, what's your personal threshold? Yeah. And I think everybody's is different, and I think that's totally okay. But for me, because my wallet is the most powerful weapon I have, that was when I said no. That was for me when I was like, I can't keep doing this. I can't ignore what's happening.
And I think this actually spins really well into one of the other points that we have about just feeling comfortable sharing a fandom. Like when John Oliver did that bit about Saudi Arabia. I
Unions?
had so many friends that had never watched wrestling in their whole lives, like sending it to me, asking me, they're like, oh my God, is this really real? Are they really doing this? What, like, do you watch this? Like, what's happening? And I had to be like, no, I don't watch that. I watch this, and let me explain some things to you. And obviously, again, like I said before, at the end of the day, this is carny shit. And you're sitting down and you're suspending your disbelief. You're watching Olympic level athletes flip around and basically dance with each other in a squared circle. And when the people that are cutting their checks are making really, really gross deals, it is hard to say like, oh yeah, like I totally enjoy this. This is a part of my life. I like it a lot. I do this on the weekends. I watch it on my TV. And it becomes a thing where, again, if wrestling fandom as a whole was more inclusive and more welcoming, we wouldn't have to do panels like this. We wouldn't have to basically just like hide. Or a friend of mine on through Twitter made a Discord specifically just so that everybody can chill out and not have to immediately just deal with a million smarks online, being like, no, you don't know anything about this. But it's just that thing where it's like, we enjoy this, and when we're around people that also enjoy it too, it's easy to say like, oh, hell yeah, did you see that match? That spot was crazy. But when you go out into your regular life, it's just, yeah, I watch it. I like that thing. And it's like, no, that sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. You in the back?
What part of it?
Yeah. So if you could hear thoughts on the, I can't even say it, the Lashley Lana Liv. I guess they got alliteration going. That's nice.
They also need to take that L.
Yeah. That Lashley Lana Liv storyline, which again, as you mentioned, a lot of people are like, oh, it must be Vince. And it's like, oh, unfortunately, that was not. He was not there. It was Paul Heyman. But yes, that this storyline is going on speaks, I think, to, again, it's like, this is what the fans want. And I'm like, I sometimes forget. I do forget that I'm like, right. A lot of fans are not the people I engage with on Twitter.
Yeah.
Like there is, I'm like, everybody is real woke and they think about things. And then I'm like, oh, wait, no. That's not true.
You end up seeing some dude dressed up like Hulk sitting in the front, and you're just like, oh, right. You
don't care.
That was a choice. That was a choice, my friend. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess.
I think there's a lot to break down with that. I think starting at the very top with Rusev and Lana, the fact that I believe Lana re-signed, Rusev did not, so far as we know. And because of this, I feel like they're definitely getting this kind of crap storyline that was Maria and Mike's.
Yeah.
And that's now not only like it's a recycled storyline, but then like they're doubling down on it and not in a good way. And you can tell that, honestly, in my opinion, I feel like Lana is making this. Lana is trying really hard. I feel like Rusev's completely checked out of it. Bobby,
he popped out of
Bobby's
a
doing
cake.
his goddamn best. God bless Bobby Lashley, but man, that is just a walking meat bag.
He's a sim. He's a sim. Because if you ever saw him in like his outfits, like where he would have like the baseball cap and he'd have like the polo shirt and stuff like that, he basically looks like the bare bones sim that you make.
Oh no, I thought he looked like a me when they like drew on his eyebrows. I was like, wow.
Speaking of drawn on eyebrows, how about that kiss where like Lana just lined
And
all that makeup came off, which leaves
who's not setting their makeup? Like, who's not setting the foundation of Bob Lashley? I don't know. And that's another thing. It's like, if you really dissect this, if there was a person of color doing Bob Lashley's makeup, then they would have known to set that. So I think there's a lot of things to kind of dissect and break down with it, and it's a lot of bad, unfortunately. But as Jess was saying, not all fans are us. And there are people who are actually drawing enjoyment from this, who don't see anything wrong with this, who are of the same, thinking spectrum as Paul Heyman. I hate to say, but we are also feeding it because we were discussing this before, but as we're hate watching or watching to laugh at it, we're also giving it views. And we're also telling them that, regardless, they're not looking at our individual Twitters. They're not looking at us saying, oh, what is this? Like, we hate this. They're looking at the numbers, and the numbers show that there are people watching this. And so they're going to keep going. And as long as the talent is compliant, everybody is compliant in this, then they're going to keep going. It is very sad, but it is a machine.
That curly-haired gentleman, what does he have to say?
This is an assumption. I assume that you've all encountered people in your life that would love wrestling, and they're either turned off by certain aspects of it, or literally just haven't had like that moment. So what I would like to know is, if this is a true assumption, what sort of wrestling or wrestlers do you think are best, or they don't exist yet, that you'd like to see that can tap into these like would-be wrestling fans who just need that get-in moment?
My mom hates wrestling.
That part.
So much. I watched it since I was 10 years old, and to this day, she does not understand. And my uncles watched it. I swear up and down, if I took her to a show and she saw Roman Reigns, she'd be a friend forever. And because I say this because every person I have dated, every person I have shown wrestling to, they are immediately drawn to Roman Reigns, and they go, "Who is this man? I love him."
Because he's Aquaman.
Yeah,
Agreed.
like he's the guy, and for everyone to like hate that, and I'm like, nope, he is very popular with people who do not watch wrestling all the time.
I feel like if you'd like to go the complete other end of the spectrum, there is an artist downstairs, Glitchbat, who is selling badass stuff. Go buy a bunch of badass stuff and support them. They said they're like, my two biggest sellers this weekend have been Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin.
Yes.
I have had multiple friends who have been flipping the channels, and they're like, "Hey, Jess, who's the skeleton man on a skateboard?" And I'm like, I love the skeleton man on a skateboard with no regard for his own safety. So for me, and this is, it happens to tend toward what I like in wrestling. I have always loved high flyers. And a number of people who I've converted or have at least been willing to watch, they like the people who can do cool shit. They're not necessarily, in my experience, super interested in like mat wrestling, which is a shame because I love Zack Sabre Jr. with my whole soul. But if I can show them someone doing a cool flip, or if I can show them someone picking up a heavy thing, they're going to like that. And also if someone has a character that reads really fast. Pentagon Jr.
So I have two real life stories that are very, very quick. So at Phantom Comics, we do local outreach with some of the high schools in DC, and we have a couple of interns that have been working with us through this semester. Two of the girls, we have gotten into the habit of showing them a few clips. Specifically, we showed them some of the Firefly Funhouse. And every single time that they come for internship and I'll give them a task, they'll usually just be like, "Yowie, wowie, we got a task now?" And they went on their own. They watched a few videos, and they came back after Christmas, and they were just like, Raven, this man is weird. I love him. And I was just like, yeah, he real weird. And one of them was like, does he ever wrestle like Mr. Rogers? Like, what happens? And I'm like, oh, child. He did do that recently. And he came out and he said hello to everyone. And it was incredible to watch them watch these clips, because I know that they don't go home and watch wrestling or anything like that. So seeing them get super excited and ask me, oh, well, where can I see more of this? That made my little heart grow. And then recently at the Flying V show in Silver Spring, I took my friend Bear. They had never been to a wrestling show. I had shown them some other wrestling stuff. They immediately fell in love with the Ugly Ducklings. They fell in love with so they're a dog walker, and they fell in love with Solo Darling bringing out Officer Magnum, and just seeing a bunch of different things. And I asked them at the end of the show, I was like, well, what did you think? How did you feel? And they were just like, I'm so sad that I didn't get into this earlier, because this is my kind of weird shit, and I'm glad that you showed it to me. So yeah, just show people the weird shit. It's okay.
Yeah, I have never failed showing people Chikara, ever.
Yes.
People are like, is that an ice cream cone? I'm like, it sure is.
Yes.
So, yeah, we've got some answers up here, and then we've got more people out there. This is exciting.
At the end of the day, my favorite thing about wrestling is the pageantry, and that is what immediately draws the eye. So to piggyback on what Jess said, either having a gimmick that you don't have to think about to understand it, like Okada, he's just a man who makes it rain money.
Yeah.
There's nothing to grasp about that. You see it immediately. And I've had friends go, artist friends who go, I want to draw this guy. Tell me more about him. There's nothing else to tell. This is literally it. He
makes
best
the
wrestler
money
in the
rain.
world. He will tell you that himself, as he did recently in an interview, with no hubris whatsoever. It's just a fact. And also the incredible feats of athleticism, because that is something, that kind of body language is totally universal.
I was just gonna rattle off a list really, really quickly. Just
No, do it.
I have just these are the people that I've shown people, or they've just been kind of like everyone was saying, just kind of there, and like they're there. Sunny Kiss.
Yes.
I had a friend who literally does not give a shit about wrestling, just saw Sunny Kiss and instantly was like, wow, there are people like this that exist. Fashion Files was another thing that kind of like grabs the eye, and I think would like grab just like a person kind of like flipping channels. They're just like, why are these dudes just like covered in feathers and just like in booty shorts, just doing the most? So I would agree, any gimmick that kind of does the most and kind of like displays this kind of like wrestling isn't all just like sweaty dudes just like tackling each other. Sometimes there's whimsy, and I think if we show the whimsy, a lot of people are really like down on the whimsy, but I like it. The more the better.
Yeah.
Oh, and one more thing before we get serious. I love Joey Ryan.
Yes!
Okay?
Yes!
Like, he was at the Primetime show recently, and he is easily one of the sweetest human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his dick is bionic, and he wrestles with it, and
I'm fine with that.
but
He has publicly said he has every single person he's ever wrestled. He's like, "Are you cool with doing this spot?
Yeah.
If you're not, we will build a match without it. It does not matter. I don't need to do it."
Yeah.
So,
And I've had friends that have asked me about Joey Ryan. They're like, who's this guy? He came out with like a bunch of inflatable penis people and like
they're penis druids.
he like, why is he so hairy? And what's the deal with the lollipop? I'm uncomfortable. And I'm like, look,
I love him.
he's
Just-
not,
I love
that,
him.
look.
Just sit back.
Just sit back. It's okay. He's not a creep.
He's not gonna
he likes
hurt you.
pina coladas and It's great. Okay, so just
He's like Val Venus, only like woke.
yes.
Well, to a degree, he has made some poor choices recently, but that is a conversation for another day because we've talked about it exhaustively.
Yeah, possibly a conversation for our podcast, which we'll get into later.
Hi.
This is honestly just expounding on the gospel of independent wrestling and your local independent wrestling with the Flying V. I saw Raven there last week. I took my mother there. She's about 68, 69 years old. Second row, we're watching the show. One of the wrestlers comes up, a heel wrestler, and he's just like, hey, his grandmother and it's a little bit past your bedtime. You've never seen a body like this before in my mom.
Was it Logan?
Was it?
Okay. Of course it was Icarus. Yeah, you've also never seen a tattoo like that. Yikes.
I'm so happy you're.
And I look over at my mom and we're looking at some of these spots and she's just like, I want that person to win. So knowing like sort of the heels and the faces and having that type of storyline just like drew her in. She didn't know anything about it and she enjoyed herself. So definitely take yourself to local wrestling shows, prime time, Flying V's are awesome.
I'm so glad your mom had a good
Me too.
time.
I took a friend to see the AEW show in Baltimore, the pay-per-view. And we got, and she was like, hey, Jess, what's a lights out match? I'm like, well, and we left, and she's like, that was the best match of the night. And I'm like, okay. She's like, well, I mean, I'm like, was it the blood? She's like, it was the blood. I'm like, okay.
Yes. My partner, bless his soul, actually cringed a little bit at that match, and me, I'm like, bring it the fuck up.
Oh, it was amazing. We were like right there as they were just like destroying
You
each
were.
other.
It was amazing. I saw you. Yes. Hi.
So, I have like one other friend who's really into wrestling. He's at this con, and I was like, "Come on, let's go." And he's like, "Oh, I'm tired. I don't really want to go. I'm gonna take you." Yeah, that's what I said. So, when I was telling my other friends that like I was going to this panel, they were like, well, "Why would you go?" And I showed them the Invisible Man versus the Invisible Spirit.
Yes. Also, shout out to Bryce Remsburg.
Yes.
Bryce Remsburg can make any match better.
The best official in the business.
Yes.
And we were literally like in Granite City. We couldn't hear the match at all, and we were just watching it. And they were like, "Why don't we watch this on the regular?"
It's so true.
And that's like the biggest thing about wrestling is like, and I love that match because there's literally no wrestlers in it. It's literally just like.
There's two. There's two wrestlers.
It's Bryce telling an incredible story.
Yes. It's true. It's true. Like, and I think that maybe not everyone, but I'm comfortable saying everyone up here, like, you have had that match that you have watched, whether you were there live or whether you've watched it on TV, and you were like, holy shit, this is it. Like, this is the thing. For me, it was actually one of the first ones where I really felt that way. And Kate was there. It was our second show together. Kate and I met for a long time, accidentally sitting together at the same shows. It was a Jakara show in Richmond. And it culminated in Dalton Castle. Ashley Remsburg. Ashley Remsburg. No, Dalton Castle wasn't there. Smooth Sailing Ashley Remsburg doing the finger guns and killing a couple people. Bryce turning into The Undertaker, the Underbryce, and Ashley Remsburg turning into Paul Bearer. It was amazing. It was chaotic. It was like, I can't explain this to you. There's no context I could give you that would make this better. If you watch it, you'll probably like it. And people have watched it and been like, I don't know what the fuck I just watched, but that was a lot of fun. Is there more like this? And I'm like, there's a whole colony of ants. Keep watching.
I was that friend at that wrestling show.
Yeah.
Like, I just got the ticket because I was like, oh, Chikara is like in Richmond. That's rare. Like, we don't really get wrestling. And so I ended up next to you and I was like, so what am I in for? And you were just like, just wait. Yeah. I asked so many questions. And I think like, it really comes back to, if you want to take a friend and introduce them to wrestling, take them to an independent show. Like, for one, it's cheap. You can buy the ticket, and then they're like, cool, I get to go for free, and then they'll just fall in love with it.
Yeah.
You get to interact with the wrestling.
Exactly.
Side note, how is Dalton Castle not one of the top guys in the world?
He's a top guy
Push
in
him
my heart.
to the moon.
And yeah, and kind of to throw it back in terms of just introducing your friends to wrestling, stuff like that. Some of my lovely friends are right over there, and they introduced me to wrestling a couple of years ago. And I think it was during WrestleMania. I came over. I didn't have a clue what any of it was, but then it was the women's match. I want to say, what, Parker, it was like 3 years ago? So Charlotte comes out, and I'm just like, wow, she a big woman. And then Sasha came out in her Eddie Guerrero gear, and I literally grabbed my friend's hand, and I just went, who is that? And he was just like, oh, that's Sasha Banks. And I was like, tell me more about her.
Yep.
And I just sat there just watching her fly, watching her do these spots. And at the very end of the match, my friend just looks at me and he just kind of goes, so how'd you like it? And I was like, she's a real life magical girl. She can fly and she can jump and she's so small. And wow. And I just remember sitting there with it for a minute, and we moved on to the next match, and I think like we got to the very end of WrestleMania, and I think it was Roman versus Lesnar, and I turned to him and I was like, hey, is it bad that I don't really care about this? Because I don't.
No.
Is that bad? And he was like, no. So it's kind of like say you were watching like Batman versus Superman, and you didn't really care about that all that much. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, that's pretty much that in a wrestling match. And I'm just like, oh, see, you said it in a way that I understood. And that's honestly the way that you gotta explain it to people.
Yeah.
Just, you can find ways to make wrestling accessible to so many different people by just going, hey, do you like dinosaurs? Well, there's a wrestler that's the queen of the dinosaurs.
There's also Luchasaurus, who is a dinosaur.
Who is a dinosaur with a master's degree. Yeah,
There's
like
a tiny baby.
Do you like playing Dungeons and Dragons? Well, how about this undead wizard?
I almost came out to Aleister Black's music. It's fine. He's amazing.
Yeah, there's different ways to get people engaged in wrestling that don't necessarily have to just be like, oh, well, you just gotta sit down and watch. Like, it's just gonna be the
Watch
best.
6 hours.
Yes. Here, come over to my house and eat snacks for 6 hours while we watch WrestleMania. Sometimes that's fun. Other times that's torture.
Yeah.
So
and I think it does go back to like what we said earlier. I sometimes forget that the wrestlers that people respond, like I'm used to Twitter. I'm used to people being like, these are the only wrestlers worth watching. And then I introduce someone who isn't familiar, who doesn't have a lot of opinions, who hasn't, been on social media, and I watch who they're drawn to. And I'm like, oh, right. There was a reason these wrestlers are really popular. And it's not because, kids are stupid, because they're not. If you've ever heard kids at wrestling shows, they have thoughts. They have a lot of thoughts. Sometimes I'm like, who taught you that? That's a lot of things for a child to say.
I went to a show booked by a whole classroom of 4th graders. It was the best wrestling show I'd ever been to.
children at wrestling shows are honestly, they reinvigorate my love for wrestling. When we were at the Flying V show the other day, there were some kids that were watching one of the matches. I think it was the main event between Warhorse and a Ophidian, and this one kid was just like, kick his butt, and it started a chant, and everybody was into it, and this kid, who couldn't have been more than like 8, was just like, this is great.
At Flying V, there's tiny little Clementine Cassidy, the little one who dresses like orange.
Baby Cassidy is
It's
best.
so cute, like truly. And I've been to WWE shows and seen like little girls dressed as Charlotte and dressed as Sasha, and again, I'm like, not only, I mean, from a business perspective, it's like money, but I'm like, no, look at these tiny children having all of these feelings. It's not weird that I'm crying.
Don't look at me.
I have definitely cried at a lot of wrestling shows. It's. I think wrestling unleashes, and I would say this is probably true for all of us, just some real pure guttural emotions where you're like, Kate might know what I'm thinking of. We were at King of Trios together.
Oh.
And it was the tag team gauntlet, and DX's music hit, and we both started crying. And then we looked at each other, we're like, why the fuck are we crying?
Nostalgia is a very strange thing. Like, you wouldn't expect to hear DX's music in 2016.
16, yeah.
In the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, but we did, and it was beautiful. Like, that's wrestling.
Also, Billy Gunn didn't realize that you can't say "suck it" at Shikara, and then he got a "We forgive you" chant going. It was really nice.
You had a question.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I took my friends to GCW.
Yeah.
Became big in Freehold, New Jersey. That's where we're from. And I went to the match where Zandig jumped with Joe Janelle off the roof.
Wow.
And he was like, that was an introduction to it. He was like, holy shit, when is this here next? I want to see that. I was like, well, see, it's here once a month. And then the fire department shut the place down, fed because they would put chairs in front of the fire escape. But that's GCW in a nutshell.
Yeah. And it's also like, guys, people won't always go off the roof. Don't set your expectations that high. But although in...
Every time we were there, there was a fire spot.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
You can also always find that kind of shit by just opening YouTube and searching Kota Ibushi, because the things he does outside of the ring are absolutely
You can tell
insane.
he's rich. You can tell that is a man who has money. I'm like, you've never known a consequence in your life. You're eating fireworks.
It's like, I want Kota Ibushi's healthcare so bad.
So bad.
It's probably great. No
Yeah,
deductibles
it has to
at
be.
all. But yeah, another thing, as far as getting people into watching wrestling, I have shown a couple of friends that are heavy into various types of fandom things, like reading fics and stuff like that. The Golden Lovers saga.
Oh my God.
And I have had them message me back and go, Raven, why am I crying? I'm really crying right now.
Because
And
it's
I'm
snowing
just
on them.
they're in love.
Kenny not being there tonight is going to break my heart when
It's
Kota
fine.
wins.
It's
swear to God.
fine.
See, I watched that the Omega Man. I watched it, and it was great. And I showed friends that, and one of my friends that does a lot of cosplay, she was like, Raven, this is so good, but I'm so terrified to cosplay either one of them because I'm not gonna do them justice. And I'm gonna cry the whole time that I'm cosplay. And I'm just like, no, you follow your heart. You do that.
They would cry the whole time.
They would cry.
It's fine.
Kenneth would cry. He'd be like, wow.
Weeping.
Just, it's great. Wrestling is great. Wrestling is great.
We have a question in the back.
Yeah.
And then you, and then... You, yep.
Yeah, you
In the back.
with the hat.
Yes.
If I gave each of you like the opportunity to be the booker of a brand in WWE, which woman would be the focal points of your brand?
So women specific, which women specifically?
What would be like your core, in your top brand?
Oh
Top
man.
3 women.
So for anybody that didn't hear the question, it was if we had the opportunity to be the bookers for any of the women in WWE.
It was
how
top
would we-
3.
Top 3,
Yeah.
how we want to create a program.
Assuming, I'm gonna assume everybody's healthy because that's important. Ruby Riott would be at the top of my list. I think she's one of the most talented women. If you haven't seen her stuff as Heidi Lovelace, I recommend it. And then probably Io Shirai and probably Becky. Man, that would be a fun program, the 3 of them. Honestly, I mean, I think that they have a lot of depth in the women's division, and a lot of women who have grown a lot and have not gotten a chance to show it, because it's not that, with no disrespect, I love Sasha, I love Charlotte, I love Becky. There are a lot of women who really need to be showcased because they haven't gotten to be.
I mean, it's the X-Men problem. You've got your tight six and everything that all the comics want to focus on, but there's like 600 of them, and nobody gets the chance to see a lot of them shine.
Yeah. If you give me Ruby Riott as champion, you would know I booked it.
I can't pick a top 3, but I would love to watch Asuka against everybody.
Yes, including the men's division.
Yeah,
Please.
exactly. Just eat them all alive and then put it on YouTube.
Yes.
I also am not going to pick a top 3, also because we're running a little short on time. But Dana Brooke needs a chance.
Yeah.
Give Dana Brooke a chance because she's awesome and she's been working her ass off and she's been through some stuff. So yeah, let's see what she can do.
I have a top 3: Bianca, Io, and I would say, oh fuck, I'm blanking on her name. No.
Describe her.
Ember Moon, yes. Bianca, Io, Ember. I feel like Bianca just has this fire.
She does.
And she is just, it's like, give her a chance. She will run roughshod on everyone. And just like her gimmick is just so explosive. Just the second she walks out, it's just attitude.
Yeah.
I want to see her give Sasha a run for her
Oh
fucking
my
money.
God.
I would love to see Boss versus EST. Like I would. Oh my God.
Also, Nikki Cross. I would love to see more with Nikki Cross. She's
Yeah.
amazing, and they have underused her.
But yeah, I think definitely Bianca doing something with Sasha is. Oh my God. You said it, and I was like, give me the thing.
Would die.
Here's money, go.
Oh my God.
But definitely Dana Brooke, because she can hit she can hit certain spots, and I'm just like, why is nobody giving her opportunities? Like, y'all love blondes, push her out there, she's good.
Not the buff ones, just the petite ones.
Just the small ones, the Alexa
small, or they
Blisses.
have to be like really, really tall.
Yeah.
To be buff, because that's how you get over it.
I was gonna say also of the new signees, Shotzi Blackheart.
Yes, Shotzi.
I love her.
I'm so excited for Shotzi.
Yeah, her versus Bianca was. I was like, oh wow, okay.
But yeah, I definitely would want Dana Brooke. I want Bianca. I want Io. If I could have like a fatal 4-way match with the 3 of them, and then have like a mystery entrant that ends up being like, I'm blanking on her name.
Just describe her. We're good.
Robe, but not Charlotte.
Yeah, which
NXT.
Yeah.
New.
Yeah.
Deonna Purrazzo.
Yeah.
Deonna
Like,
Purrazzo. The virtuosa. Yeah.
Have them all together. Just put on a clinic. Just have it be the main event. Run it right up until the wire with the time limit, and just let them go at it. I think that honestly, there needs to be more, obviously more women's matches, but there needs to be more women's matches where you have, like, highlight 3 people. Do more handicap matches, but with people that you don't get to see that often. Let them really get out there and shine. That's why I'm still excited for the Rumble.
I'm always excited for the Rumble. I can't help it.
I'm excited, but also a little bit hesitant about it because this is the first year in a while where you really can't predict who's winning.
True.
I have heard a lot of talk about who might be coming back, and my face does a face journey.
I swear to God.
Wait, who? I miss
Rhonda.
Oh, God.
I almost fought some children at WrestleMania.
Yes, she did. She really did.
They were cheering for Rhonda, and I had to sit there and remember these are children, and no matter how much you tell them she is trash, they will not understand why yet.
They'll just cheer them harder.
So we had a couple questions. I want to get to gray and black sweatshirt.
Hi, Caitlin.
I just wanted to say, like, just back and forth when you're talking about things that get people invested in wrestling. Also, like, the wrestlers being invested in each other.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
friendship and stuff, I think is like one of the main things that even if they don't get it, you'll start to get it because you'll be like, oh, they're working together like on this, storyline, or just like their friendship off screen.
Yeah.
So many wrestlers like I wouldn't care about, but you see like their interactions with other wrestlers, and you're like, oh, they're pretty awesome.
Yeah. Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens. I'm like,
Owens
big
and
mean Kevin Owens who likes all of the puppies and who's Sami Zayn's best friend.
I would love to be Kevin Owens' friend.
Me too.
Wrestlers who support each other across brands and
Yes.
companies is so incredibly amazing, and it makes my heart swell every time I see it on Twitter, them trying to covertly support each other
Yes.
without overstepping any contractual boundaries.
It's wonderful.
I love it.
Like Kenta getting questions about the Iconics and stuff on
And he's like, I
Twitter.
love them.
But yeah, I think
Yeah, we're gonna have to do
Naito,
kind of like some lightning
what
round
you got?
questions.
Yeah.
So, out of all the indie shows coming up on Mania, the two I'm most excited and interested in, since they were announced, were the For the Culture and Effie's Big Gay Brunch, because these are just really interesting shows that are like definitely bringing up talent that are outside they're minority talent in different ways. And I'm curious, thoughts on just the fact these shows are happening and expectations you think for shows like this. I mean, even Tokyo Joshi Pro is now doing a full show.
More. I want more.
I think
Yeah.
they're amazing.
Yeah.
There
More
was
like
one,
that.
I think, during WrestleMania weekend. I didn't get to go, but I think it was drag
Brody,
wrestlers. Yeah.
Brody King,
I
lip
wanted to
syncing
go
is one of the
so
best things
bad.
in the world.
I think
They're
it-
doing another Gay Young Classic
Oh my
this
God.
year.
Yeah.
Wait, a gay young classic.
It's called the Gay Young Classic. And that's what it was, lip sync battles. And if you have not watched Brody King lip sync to Lady Gaga, it will change your life.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I think the answer is yes. Give us
More,
more.
please.
We want it.
Yes, please.
Times is changing. Give us the gay. Give us the brown and black people.
Yes.
Give us the non-binary folks. We want to see it. We want to see ourselves reflected in this ridiculous pastime.
And we
And-
want to see ourselves taken seriously. We don't want to see ourselves as like the brunt of a joke. We don't want to see us in like a problematic storyline. We want to see like something that is for us, like not to quote FUBU, but for us, by us.
Yeah.
Like
And-
just
Yeah. We don't need to be okay with crumbs. Like
Yes.
there's
Yeah.
there's no need when a show says there's just no women around. It's just a bad time. I'm like, then I don't have to give you my money. That's a lie.
Yeah.
I think that the more shows like this come forward, the more we can be like, oh no, we've seen what can happen, and we want that.
I saw
we
Tessa
don't want
Blanchard powerbomb a dude, and I was like,
Yeah.
at WrestleMania, I was like, oh my God. I was in love.
All right, I think we have time for two. Yeah, right. One.
And
Hi, friends.
Hi, friend.
What are your thoughts on AEW's women's division?
Oh.
okay.
You did this at the end?
So
We have 3 minutes left. That's really unfair.
all
Say
right.
everybody 30 seconds or less.
Oh, go ahead.
You doing?
Do better.
No, but I
Did
mean,
everyone
we
know
have, like,
Britt
3
Baker
minutes
is a
left.
dentist?
Oh my God. Wow.
Because that's all
Did
I
you
know.
know that Chris Statlander was bigger than her opponent? Because JR will tell you 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Don't ask why he thinks Rio.
No.
God.
Nyla Rose is very
it's-
thick, and that's why it's hard to put a submission hold on her. Like, no, just do better.
Do better.
Yeah.
You have amazing, like they have some truly amazing talent. They really do.
Best tag team
Right.
division.
It's
Yeah. They have some really tremendous talent in the women's division and build real stories, tell real stories. The fans should not be booking the storyline to be more interesting than it is. Like the information, the history between, Riho and
Yeah.
and then at Emmy in that match,
Yeah.
I was like, why are people on Twitter telling me why I should care about this when
Yep.
this show is clearly not interested in letting me know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And stop taking them off the dark matches. Like put them on the main show.
Yeah.
I'm tired of it.
So simple question. 2019, who do you think was the most underrated or unused? Potential that you saw that could have been more?
Damn. Damn, Daniel.
Naito.
Yes. I also
But
agree,
it's okay. He's going to be Naito 2 belts now, and it's going to be okay. He's going to fix it.
Yeah, and to be fair, we see that as Naito not getting as much love as he should, but over there, that's the fucking guy.
Yes, very true. Very true. Also Bianca. Bianca
Yeah,
shouldn't
Bianca,
be
yes, Bianca,
Shayna.
always. Yeah.
Who do you guys think is winning the Double Dash? Naito, obviously.
Naito.
I
The
didn't
goat.
watch it yet.
Oh,
He's on her water bottle. He can't lose.
that means
Yeah.
he's winning. So I see you.
But yeah, I guess
Yeah.
we have to.
This is, yeah, we do. We have to wrap up, which is sad.
We have
One
we
more.
have
Yeah,
1
no,
minute.
Yes.
You guys all watch the local wrestling promotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Damn straight.
Y'all know the Healy's kid?
Yeah, the Healy's kid.
Yeah. What is the Healy's kid?
Go on.
Hey!
What's up, Healy's kid?
Healy's kid's here.
Hello. Holy shit.
Nice.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
All right.
Yeah, we do have. Oh,
Wait, we got one more.
Okay, we're also getting the wrap it up.
The
so
wrap it up.
Yeah, real quick.
Where are y'all watching Wrestle Kingdom? Here?
At home.
who knows?
I'm
Yeah.
driving my ass home.
I can't do it
and
here.
I'm
I'm watching
myself
it.
full of caffeine.
I'm watching it on Twitter because
Watching it.
Right,
It's on
I'm
Twitter.
watching this shit unfold.
By the way, real quick to wrap us up, check
gonna
us
watch
all
my
out
baby Naito.
on social
Where you
media.
can find us online.
Find us, talk to us,
Thank you all
and
for
tell
coming.
people you want these panels because we will keep coming back.
Also, be on the lookout. We have a podcast that we are going to be launching soon-ish called Hops and Headlocks. So get up on it. It's great.
Yes.
We do already have a Twitter. It is @HopsHeadlocks. So you can follow us on Twitter to keep an eye out for when we have our first episode go live.